Howdy, y'all. I'm Brylan. Canada's Liberal Party, led by Mark Carney, wins the federal election. Gee, didn't see this coming. You know, lots of people are saying that this is Trudeau 2.0. Man, you're going to be wishing that was true when you see just how bad Mark Carney is. This man is much worse than Trudeau could have ever hoped to have been. Justin Trudeau was an absolute disaster for the Canadian economy. He was an absolute monster when it came to co-fraud and implementing some of the worst restrictions that the world had seen. And don't forget about the Freedom Convoy, where he froze the bank accounts of private citizens. And oh yeah, he arrested Christians for praying outside of abhorrent clinics. All of that is nothing compared to what you're going to see under Mark Carney. This man is, an absolute disaster for Canada. And I'm going to show you in his own words how he plans on destroying Canada. Hey, would you consider hitting that thumbs up button? You know, when you like this video, it'll get pushed out to more people to help spread the truth. I thought this was hilarious. So look at this. Canadian voters, Canada with the fruits, and socialism with this mysterious white powder. Oh, not sure what Mark Carney's doing here. I'm sure it's not what it looks like. Anyways, moving on. I'm sure there's a perfectly valid explanation for all of this. Here's the official results. Liberal, conservative. The Liberals won, again, Mark Carney, with over 8,300,000 votes. Conservatives had almost 8 million votes. Man, that really stinks. You know, I feel bad for my Canadian brothers and sisters in Christ, for those Canadians that are truly Christian and conservative, for being so close. But you know, one thing we have to realize is that liberal and conservative in Canada is not apples to apples with liberal and conservative in America. Conservatives in Canada still tend to be very liberal socially. So even Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party, if he would have won, it still would have been very liberal socially. So the LGB and, you know, taking the child's life in the womb and, you know, all the things. But the most popular thing to do right now is to scream, Trump! Listen to what Mark Carney has to say about Trump in his victory speech. It's insane.
Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never ever happen.
Again, it's just TDS. That's all it is. The mainstream media, everybody's trying to make this sound like Canada's election was a referendum on Trump because, again, they have nothing left. They have nothing left except to try to blame Trump and use all the same Trump scare tactics, even in Canada, that they tried to use in America. However, again, Canada is very much more liberal than the United States of America. I know there are conservatives and Christians that are very conservative in Canada, but you are not the majority, and that really stinks. Believe me, I wish it wasn't true. However, people fall for stuff like this. Listen to Mark Carney say this during one of the debates in this current election.
The biggest risk we have to affordability, the biggest risk we have to this economy is Donald Trump.
He's blaming Donald Trump for their economy and the biggest risk to their economy going forward. Not the fact that he's going to radically implement things that are going to destroy Canada on their own. No, it's all Trump's fault. The fact that Trump is the president of the United States of America, you must elect me so that when I actually destroy Canada, I can just blame Trump. But remember, it was Trudeau and, you know, many of these radical left leaders in Canada that have destroyed the economy way before Trump came onto the scene. Canada started dealing with this horrid rise in the cost of living, just skyrocketing home prices, and the rise in authoritarian control over everything that you do. Well, look at this. The number one issue for people between the ages of 18 to 29 and 30 to essentially 18 to 59 is reducing the cost of living. Canadians cannot take it anymore. Well, at least that's what we thought. And then they elected somebody that is going to make the cost of living about 1,000 times worse. Congratulations. And I'm going to show you how Mark Carney is going to do that in just a second. But look at this. People who are in the prime age to be buying homes, to be trying to provide for their young families. It's just going to get worse, unfortunately. Those 60 and over who are already sitting in their house that they bought back when, they could afford to, are saying that dealing with Donald Trump is the real issue here. In fact, look at what Pierre Poilievre had to say when he was asked on this news show about the cost of living, about taxes, and how they're destroying Canadians. This was under Biden, by the way, has nothing to do with Trump. Again, the liberal world order will only steal, kill, and destroy. It will not give you anything except despair, tragedy. And then I'm going to show you in Mark Carney's own words how he plans on destroying the Canadian economy even more.
Mr. Poilievre, when you say you're all about axing the tax, you're all about bringing taxes down, making life more affordable, and in the same breath you say you're not sure you're going to support a tax break for Canadians at a time when they're struggling so badly.
Why are they struggling so badly? It's been 9 years that Trudeau's promised to make them better off. And here we are. You're right. They are struggling so badly. And I think your own words are a condemnation of his track record, with food prices rising 37% faster in Canada than they have in the United States, just as the carbon tax came in. Housing costs doubled. Here we are in Toronto, where you have to earn well over $200,000 to afford a home. That was never the case before Justin Trudeau ran money printing and immigration out of control, before he built up all these bureaucracies that block home building. Clearly, Canadians are struggling. Justin Trudeau is the problem.
Mark Carney is going to do much more horrid things than Trudeau could have ever dreamed of. Let's start with the fact that this whole woke disease, this mind disease that is just destroying societies like Canada, let's start with the fact that that's not going anywhere, and what it leads to with things that he said that he's going to do to destroy Canada.
There's a fever gripping America. And while it rages, Canadians will remain resolute and true to our values. While America engages in a war on woke, Canadians will continue to value inclusiveness.
Woke is here to stay, no matter what. Mark Carney wasn't shy about what he's going to do to continue to make it impossible for people to afford anything in Canada. And the fact that taxes aren't going anywhere. In fact, taxes are going to go up. And taxes you think are bad in the U.S., taxes in Canada are even worse. So the economy is going to get worse. Taxes are going to go up. And the price of homes is going to not just double under Trudeau, but double under Mark Carney. Yet, again, Trump bad.
Shouldn't we be flying less now?
We should be taking into account the impact of our flying on the planet now. And that's
pushing up the tax on flying.
You push up the tax on flying, you push up the cost on transport, and that's in part what putting a price on carbon is.
You want to leave your house? They're going to tax you for it. You want to fly somewhere? They're going to tax you for it. Anything you do, they're going to tax. You walk outside your home and fart, there's going to be a gas tax on that. Once again, Mark Carney's plan to further destroy the Canadian economy.
Skepticism about ESG labels or sustainable labels, and that again is one of the reasons we're having this ruthless, relentless focus on net zero, because in the end, look, we can't stabilize the climate unless we get to net zero, and it's as simple. These are hard numbers. Your emissions are either A or B, they're going up or down, and if they're going down, are they going down consistent with the science? We anchor it in the science, the same science the UN and others use for the 1.5 degree objective.
Even people in the comments, look at this. Another puppet for the globalists. Gee, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what Carney is. And look at this. Canada's newest Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has a vast resume. 20 years at Goldman Sachs, Governor of Bank of Canada, Governor of Bank of England, Vice Chair at Brookfield, Board of Trustees at WEF, the World Economic Forum. Again, you will eat bugs, you will own nothing, and you will be happy. Governor of Bank of Canada and of England. Listen to what the British Prime Minister said about Mark Carney's absolute disastrous impact on their economy.
Thoughts on Mark Carney and your relationship with him while you were Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and any advice you have to Canadians who think he might make a good Prime Minister?
Well, Mark Carney was Governor of the Bank of England, and under his tenure, too much money was printed, which did damage to the British economy and put our economy off track. He, at the last election, endorsed Rachel Reeves' economic policy. She's now become Chancellor. It's been a disaster for Britain. The country is heading for bankruptcy. So I would strongly recommend not backing Mark Carney or his policies on net zero, which have been disastrous for Britain, would be disastrous for Canada.
Yeah.
Do you trust his judgment overall, outside of ideological considerations?
Well, I believe that he made major mistakes in the management of the Bank of England. He has pushed net zero, which has been a disaster, not just for the UK, but for many countries across the world.
From the mouth of the British Prime Minister, says it all. He's been a disaster for their economy, and he's going to be an even bigger disaster for the Canadian economy. But hey, at least Mark Carney is proud to be a Canadian, right?
Yeah, it was a tell.
As a European, you know, as a
European, I am a European,
European.
actually.
Oh, you are?
I'm an Irish citizen. Yeah, so there you
welcome.
go.
Well,
Speaking as a European, I like to say the following.
In Matthew chapter 15, we read that the disciples come to Jesus and tell him that the Pharisees are offended by what Jesus is teaching. Go figure. They were offended by the truth. And they try to do everything in their power to try to, take the life of Jesus because he was threatening their power over the people by coming in and teaching the truth. And it was waking people up. And listen to what Jesus says here to his disciples about these types of leaders. In verse 14, highlighted in blue, let them alone. They are blind guides, and if the blind lead the blind, both will fall into a pit. But hey, let me know your thoughts about all this in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, join this community. I would love to hear from you on a regular basis. And please hit that thumbs up button, you know, when you like this video, to get pushed out to more people, and it would really help spread the truth. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.